Let's go to Niger next. As European nations have begun evacuating hundreds of citizens from the country, the first of 3 French planes has arrived back in Paris with more than 250 people on. Board Italy has also flown out dozens of its own nationals, as well as other European and American citizens. Meanwhile, defense officials from West Africa's regional bloc evacuees will meet later to discuss the military coup that took place in Niger last week. Some countries in the region have come to the new leadership's defense, including Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, declaring that any military intervention in the country will be considered a declaration of war. Niger is located in the Sahel region, which is a key region for Western countries in counter-terrorism operations. Let's speak to our correspondent Berhanger, who is following the story from Nairobi for us. Catherine, let's start with events in Niger and what the neighbors are doing. OS had given the coup leaders a deadline of a week to restore democratic rule to the country, but what are the options really for where this goes next? Yes, no, so this is really a huge dilemma, not only for Niger's neighbors, so ECOWAS grouping of nations there in East Africa, but also for international allies. This is because, as you say, Niger is a crucial country when it comes to fighting Islamist groups connected to ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Now, when West African heads of states met in Abuja in Nigeria at the weekend, they ordered the junta in Niger to hand over power back to the former presidents within a week, or else they threaten efforts against the countries. And following on from that statement, said a defense chiefs from the region would then meet this week in Nigeria to discuss these options, and that's the meeting that we're seeing in Nigeria starting today. But if you speak to analysts, if you speak to people who follow developments in the region, there is really people do not believe that ECOWAS will go ahead and attack Indonesia to try and remove the miniature government, and then that leaves very few tables options on the table. We've seen Western governments remaining aid. The United States has threatened the same there, talking about removing Niger, so those are some of the options. But as we've seen in Burkina Faso and neighboring Mali, even with those threats, the military juntas continue to stay in power and continue their dominance in the countries, and it's that threat from jihadists that's really exacerbating this issue, isn't it? Countries like Mali and Burkina Faso are in solidarity with the coup leadership, had coups there themselves. Yes, when these militaries have taken over power from civilian governments, they've often said the reason that they are doing this is because of the fight against Islamist groups not going in the right direction. They talk about lack of equipment, they talk about the fact that there isn't enough political support for the fight against jihadists, and that's why they've taken power. It's the same thing that we're seeing in Niger right now. But what happened obviously is that the new have continued instability in some of these countries, so in Burkina Faso and Mali, even though the military has taken over, you do still see attacks from the Islamist groups. In the case of Mali in particular, they've kicked out foreign forces, the French, Europea, about 1,000 troops in Mali at the moment, helping the militia there to fight Islamist groups. Now this is obviously another concern for international allies, especially Western countries. They're worried that in the case of Niger, even though there is no evidence that Russia helped stage this coup,